What's good, you guys? It's Lifestyle from LifeStyleDidIt.com. You know what I'm saying. Alright, in today's tutorial, we're going to be going over compression. Everything about compression, I'm going to be explaining it to you guys in the easiest way possible. We're going to be doing this in FL Studio. We're going to be using their normal compressor. I was going to use a Waves compressor, but I thought, you know, not everyone has that. Every compressor is the same, so we will go ahead and just use anything stock. So let's get into it. We're just going to use this drum loop because I thought it would be something easy for you guys to hear the compression. And let me put my headphones in because I always forget to do that. Every tutorial, I'm telling you, man. But like I said, we're going to get into everything about compression today. You guys are going to understand how to use it if you don't already. And maybe if you do, I'll teach you or show you some things that you might not know. Or you already know, or you know more. You know, that's how it goes. So like I said, we're going to be using this drum loop. We're going to come over, we're going to route it to the mixer. So just make this green right here by clicking on it. Come over here, I already did this, but you know, link to this track. And now we have it linked here. Alright, we're going to go in here and we are going to get Fruity Compressor, which obviously I already have open, but just to show you guys if you don't know. Alright, so this is the compressor. You have a couple different things to it. We're going to explain everything one by one. The only thing I don't like about this compressor is it doesn't show you how much gain reduction you're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to open up the, if I still have it activated, come in here and get the Fruity dB meter right here. And this is going to just show us where we're peaking. Okay. So as you can see, we're peaking around -8. You can see over here we're around -8. We're going to use this to control and see how much gain reduction we're doing since they don't have one built in. That's the only reason I didn't really want to use this compressor for the tutorial, but that's not the main part. You're going to use your ear. So this is kind of cool, I guess, since you can't see either way. Alright, so the first things you have on a compressor is the threshold. We're going to go step by step and show you guys exactly what this means. So I'm going to try and like draw this out, you know, make it as simple as I can to explain it. So you have a threshold, right? Threshold is basically, in the easiest sense, where you're telling the compressor to turn on. So you see when we play this, we're at -8, right? If we stick a threshold up here, we're not touching the audio yet. We need to basically tell the compressor, all right, here's the threshold down here around -6. This is where you want it to kick on, okay? So we're going to explain this like this. When we play it, we have the sound, right, going, okay? And we're going to use red. This is our threshold. So our sound is peaking around here, right? If we just set a threshold, let's say this is peaking around -6. If we set a threshold somewhere around -2, I don't know why I put another 6. That was horrible. A line around here, we're not touching the waveform yet, okay? So nothing's going to happen on the compressor. So we need to bring down our threshold. If this peak right here is at -6, we need to set a threshold to at least touch the audio at -6. If we did -7, we'd start to touch it here, right? So now we're affecting this waveform. We're not touching this one yet. We're affecting this one and this one, okay? So what I'm saying by that is we have to turn the ratio on a tiny bit to start getting any compression, because if you do this and just bring the threshold down, you're not doing anything, okay? What we need to do is get a ratio going, and I'll explain what ratio is, but just to show you guys. Okay, see, we're not touching anything yet. We're pulling down our threshold. If we're peaking around -8, we're still not touching anything because we're at -5 right here. We need to bring our threshold down to where it's peaking. And now you can hear some compression going on. This is off, on. So now we're actually touching the audio. So like I said over here, we're doing this. We're over here, we're touching the audio. So now we're good, okay? So just think of threshold as the line that you're lowering to, you know, hit the audio. If the audio is here, you need to bring the threshold to about right here to start compression. You could bring the threshold way down depending how much you want to compress, but just know threshold is basically the level, like I said, right here, of where you're starting. If your threshold isn't low enough and it's way up here and your waveforms are right here, you're not even touching it. You need to go down more over here and get a threshold that touches it, okay? If you want to look and say, oh, I'm peaking at -8, you can set your threshold to -8 or -10. Now you're touching the audio, okay? Ratio. Ratio, kind of think of that as how much compression, how strong the compression is. So we're touching the audio, like I said, but this ratio is, let's just make it simple, a 2 to 1. Okay, so for every, basically think of it, for every 2 decibels we go over the threshold. So here's our threshold. For every 2 decibels we go over. If we go over 4, you know, just every 2 decibels we go over, we're going to get 1. So how you think of that as when the audio goes over the threshold by 2 dB, we're going to clamp it down. We're going to get out 1. Okay. Usually you want, you know, if you want a soft compression, you want to go with like a 2-to-1 ratio. You can do 4-to-1 too, but once you start getting 6-to-1, 10-to-1, 8-to-1, something, you know, just by going here, you're getting a stronger ratio, and that's like some strong compression, because you're every 6 dB you're pulling out and you're getting 1. Okay, so for that, you want to use more of a strong compression or ratio for like drums that you want to have a smack, you know, or something that's just crazy and you want it to be turned down a lot, because when you start going up to here, you know, anything over like 8 to 10, you're starting getting into limiting. And what limiting means is you're not letting anything go over that threshold. And anytime, if you have this ratio all the way up to 30-to-1, anytime something goes over, it's just going to chop it off, like completely chop it off. Because you got to think, like a limiter is a compressor on steroids. It's like 1,000,000 to 1. Anything that goes over your threshold just gets cut off. It doesn't push it down anything. It just chops it off completely, okay? So you want to have a ratio, you know, for vocals, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, something like that, unless you're going for like a very compressed sound. So for this drum loop, let's just do, you know, some soft compression. Let's just even everything out, because if you see in here, we have these middle, it's this hi-hat, right? And then we have a higher one up here and then a bit lower, so everything's kind of jumping. We're just going to make this, not saying it's going to sound good, but I'm going to show you guys how to use it by, we're just going to kind of bring in a threshold around here and just chop all this off and make it more even, and just slam it, just so I can show you guys how to do it. Okay, so let's bring this back up. So we're going to have a threshold, we're going to bring this back down, so we'll set a ratio of 3-to-1, and we're going to start to bring this down till we hear some effects on the audio. Like I said, we're peaking around -7, -8, so we're not going to get anything until this threshold's around that. Okay, see now, our peak's a little more controlled and it's a little bit lower. The next thing we're going to go over to is attack and release, because on every compressor you're going to have a threshold, a ratio, attack, release, and makeup gain. Some of them have knees, what they call them, like this. It's just different types of compressors they offer. You can have soft, vintage, hard, medium, you know, stuff like that. This is just the type. It's just FL's giving you different types of compressors with that. We're not going to touch that, because that's just basically different styles of it. Some compressors have that, some don't. Main thing you're going to have in a compressor is a threshold. You're going to have ratio, attack, and release. Okay, so now the next thing is attack. Now the attack is going to basically control when the signal, let me do another paint to show you guys. Just make this as simple as possible. Okay, so we have our signal going, right? We'll do it in black. And then we have a peak here, you know, something like that. We have our signal going. And then we have our threshold set to about here, because we're just chopping off the big parts. We don't want to affect these or something, right? So basically the attack is when this bump right here goes over the threshold, we're telling the compressor when we want it to actually hit and turn on to turn that off. Okay, basically think of it as like you're delaying the compressor. So with the attack, if we have it super fast, the second that sound goes over that hump, here's our threshold, the second it goes boom, it's just going to hit it down. Okay, if we have a later attack, what that's going to do is allow a tiny bit to come through. You know, maybe it lets this part come through, and then later on in the waveform, like around here, it starts doing the compression it needs to. So you're kind of delaying it. So now you can kind of think in a way of, I don't know where my mouse went. Hold on. Oh, I'm over there. All right, cool. Think of it in a way as if you want a sound to be fatter, right? You have a snare drum and you want it to be fatter. You want to take a quick attack on it, because right when it goes over the threshold, you want to chop it off, right? And think of what that's going to make it sound like. Because if it's like attack, bah, and right at the beginning you chop that, bah, it's just going to, right? It makes it fatter. Now, if you want a sound to be spikier, right, because it's going over the threshold, what you want to do is have a slow attack. So you want to bring this way to, like, you know, somewhere around, let's just say like 80 to 100. And this is going to be a slower medium attack because we have our sound and it's going, right? And we have our threshold set, but the attack is going to be later. So it's going to let this portion through and then start to compress here. And basically what that's going to do is let that through and compress here down. Let me do this in like blue. So let's say, you know, it let this part through right here, but up here it compressed and then it brought this down like that, right? So basically what that's kind of doing, let me find the eraser tool, is getting rid of this part. Because we let it through, but then we compressed here and it slammed it down. You see what that did? It created like a mountain, more of like a peak, because we let a little bit through and then right here we went boom and chopped it off. So now it's creating this little peak that makes sound punchier, like it has more snap. So if you had a snare drum and you want it to cut through the mix more, you can do pretty strongly, you know, like set your threshold, then go like 2 to 1, 4 to 1, something like that. And on the attack, make it a slow attack. So we let a little sound through, and then up here we turn the compressor on, boom, it snaps it down, makes it more peaky, it comes through the mix more. If that makes sense to you guys, best way I can explain it. So slow attack would be for more fat, because right when it comes over, you're just going bloop and you're turning it down. A fast, or that would be a fast attack, sorry. Fast attack, it comes through right when it crosses the threshold, just snap, brings it down, makes it like a mountain. Slow attack, it comes over the threshold, it's going to let all this through, and then right here it's just going to pop it down and make, I can't bend my finger to break it, but boom, it's going to make it kind of like a peak. It makes it spikier, okay? Now release, kind of the same thing, but it's a bit different. On the release, if you have a long release, it's going to hold, bring this back up and show you guys. So like I said, we have a waveform going, okay? Now on our release, if we set our threshold, we're going to have the compressor come on, right? And if we have a short release, it's kind of going to let off like this, right? And then the next jump, like right here, it's going to come back up to the threshold, short release off, come on here, short release off. Now if we have a long release, you're literally going to have the compressor just staying on, and it's just literally going to go straight because you're never letting it release, okay? So if you want a sound to sound very compressed and just slammed and just constantly disgusting that you're going to mix in with like parallel compression in a way, you know, you duplicate the drum track and have a long release and just a nasty compressor on it. So it's just slamming it at full times to make the room bigger and then blend it in. You can do that, right? But if you're just doing normal compression, you're going to want to have you know, a release somewhere around, let's just say 100. You're just going to play with it, listen to your ears, because you want it to come in and out. Somewhere around anywhere from like 70 to 200, something like that, right? Now, if you go with the super fast release, what that's going to do is we're going to be in here. We're going to have our, I've made so many of these already. We're going to have our signal coming through. And a fast release is going to be threshold, threshold, threshold. It's going to hit here, boom, go down. And it's going to come back up because we have another, it's, you know, at our threshold, and this goes over it. So it's going to come in, boom, go down. So we're just lopping off that part. And again, that makes it more peaky. Just like having, and peaky, what I'm talking about is more like this than something of a form like that, which would be, you know, a fast attack, slow release. And it's going to make it more like that. A slow attack is just going to pop off there, and then the quick release is going to turn the signal down, which is making this shape, you know, it's making it more attack, have more attack, it's making it pop through the mix more, okay? So basically these two go hand in hand. Slow attack is going to make something more, have more of a peak. So your vocals, you know, you don't want to have a super fast attack because you want a little bit of the words to come through and then the compressor turn on. But you don't want to have a super slow attack to where it's like 200 or 100 or something, because then you're not really compressing anything. Like I can say hello and then it's going to get the O of the end of that word and compress it down. You kind of want to just let a little bit through and then pull down. You don't want to go crazy with it. So, you know, a normal attack, let's play the drums, and we have our threshold set, we already have our ratio set, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to over exaggerate it so you can hear it. So I'm going to pull the threshold down a lot. All right, I'm going to do a slow attack all the way over here so you can't hear anything. Now watch when I pull the attack all the way back. So it's immediately cutting on. It's a very quick attack. It's going to eat the drums. It's going to cut off. The snare's not going to be punchy anymore. The kick's not going to be punchy. You're going to hear what's going on. You see what I'm saying? We cut off the transients immediately of the kick and the snare. So it's making it sound fatter, but it's not having a spike anymore, so our drums aren't punching, okay? So if we have that and then we have a long release, it's choking the drums. It's never letting them breathe because it's constantly just anything that goes over the compressor is just going like this, just eating it. You can think of like a little dude behind, you know, the compressor. Every time something goes over a threshold, he turns it down. Well, if you have a quick attack, he just has the knob already ready. And then a long release, he's never turning the volume back up. He's just sitting there constantly having the volume turned down because you're compressing, okay? Now, if we go back to a normal release, and then on the attack, we let a little bit through, but not a lot, you know, somewhere around here. And then we have a fast attack. What he's doing, if we're thinking of this little dude, like I said, anytime a signal goes over that threshold, right, he's going to let a little bit through and then turn it down and then turn it back up. Turn it down, turn it back up because I have a fast release going. So if we make the threshold a little more and the attack, you know, a bit longer, we're basically letting this part come through right here, and then around here, you know, let me show you guys. We're letting this part come through because the attack's not on yet, and then around here, we're just chopping off because we're compressing it. So basically just think as if I came in here and just cut this part off. Boom. I let this through, and then we compressed after that, right? And what that's doing is making it have, I just destroyed this, hold on. Let me bring this back. This is what I hate. Okay. Alright, so back to what I was saying. Slow attack, make it more peaky. Fast attack makes it more of like a mountain. It cuts off transients quicker. Okay, so now we're going to go to the release. So we're letting a little bit through, like I said, and then on the release we're going to have it faster. If you go too fast, it's going to just be turning on and off, so it's going to bring up the room noises, which you don't want. You kind of want to set it somewhere around, not necessarily double this one, but you don't want to have it at 1, because if we overdo this, we're bringing up a lot of that back room noise. Okay, so we want to have a release that's kind of fast, but not too fast. Okay, so that's basically how you use all of these tools. Now the last tool you're going to have on compressors is makeup gain, because we did compress. So let me show you guys what I mean. If we turn the compressor off, we're peaking somewhere around, you know, -7, -8, and we turn the compressor on, and we did about a dB or 2 of compression. That's why I don't like that this doesn't show it, because usually compressors show you how much gain reduction you're doing. So we have to unfortunately look at this meter. But if we just watch here and listen, see where it's peaking, turn the compressor on, it dropped about a dB or 2, okay? So you're going to come to this makeup gain, and we're going to turn it back up till we're at the same level that we were at without compression. And you could hear that the drums got punchier. So without, with, now it sounds louder, it has more peaks to it. We emphasized the attack and transients on the kick and the snare, but our volume didn't get louder. It stayed the same. So this is why compression's cool, because you can take this and just completely, let me show you, over exaggerate it. Okay, and turn it off and watch where our level is. And then we turn it back on. We can actually add a little bit more right here because we're not at the same. And our drums just got more aggressive, but it's the same volume. So that's the cool thing about compression. That's ways to use it. Like I said, you have your threshold. That's going to be where this red line, where you set it, you know, we have our humps that come in, our transient, okay? Our threshold is the line that we're going to set, okay? Start compressing here. Our attack is how fast we want the compressor to turn on. If you have it very quick, it's going to make the lines look more like this, because it's chopping off all this transient right away. If we have it a bit slower, we're letting more transient through, right? And then it's going to make it more like this. Or if you have it super fast, it can chop it like that, make things punchier. Then we have our release. If we have it a super long release, that's way too much, obviously. But, you know, somewhere around here, our compressor is going to stay active and stay on. We'll use blue. And it's going to look more like this if it's a super long release. And if we have a bit of a shorter release, somewhere around here, our compressor is going to be going on. But it's kind of going to turn off here, not get that part and leave it. It comes back up. Obviously that one's not high enough, so it didn't clip it. We keep going. It sees this one and it gets a little bit and then turns off and comes back, okay? And then my mouse is gone again. You have your makeup gain. So you're going to look at how much compression you did because you started here, but then with compression, you're obviously taking volume away, so you're here, so you add makeup gain and get it right back up to here. You want it to be there on the same peak level. You don't want it to be louder because then you're going to think it sounds better. You want to get it right back to that same level where it was before, so when you flip back and forth, you're hearing the compression. You're not just hearing something that's louder and sounds better. And then on this compressor, you have type, which is just the type of compressor it is. Vintage, soft, hard, medium, stuff like that. Not all compressors have those. Some do, some don't. It's just a type of compression. These are your main ones, okay? Act like this one isn't here because it's not something you need to worry about. Other than that, this is how you use a compressor. I hope I can show you guys the easiest way, because I know when I first started, understanding compression was kind of weird. So I thought, you know, by using little diagrams like this, it would help you guys understand. Play around with it, you know, bring your threshold way down so it can just be destroying the drums, and then go and play with attack and release. So if we like over exaggerate it and then we start playing with the attack, we can hear what it does if it's quick or if it's slow. Watch. So you can adjust like that. Sometimes people do that. I do that as well. You set the threshold and ratio super high and go and adjust your attack and release so you can actually hear it. And then we'll go back the threshold off until we're just getting normal amount. And it's a cool trick to compress a lot and to set the attack and release so you can hear what's going on. And then you go back the threshold off a little bit, back to normal where it sounds good. And it's just it's basically a trick so you can just actually hear the attack and release to train your ear. That's a cool trick you can do. Other than that, you know, I hope this tutorial helped you guys understand compression a bit better. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment below. I'm pretty sure I covered everything, but you know, I don't know. Sometimes something can be confusing. Maybe my diagrams of those horrible drawings confused you. But other than that, if you guys want to follow me on any social media, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, on here, it's going to be at LifeStyleDidIt. If you guys want to hit my website for beats, mix orders, website design, drum kit design, all that good stuff, thumbnails, it's at LifeStyleDidIt.com. Not at Lifestyle, it's just LifeStyleDidIt.com, you know what I'm saying? Other than that, please subscribe to the family, hit that little red button, you know what I'm saying?